Thank you very much, Dave and Larry and Cherry. In this session, we will talk about 1980s, how Japan and Korea Research Network joined the CSNET. I think we will start with history of Japanese development and then followed by the Korean development. In this session, I think I will spend maybe 10 minutes or so, and then Jun Murai will talk about. During the session, I will invite Professor Aiso. I hope everyone can see Professor Aiso's face. He's at his home. Maybe this is the first time he joined the symposium via Zoom. But anyway, so may I share the slide? Can you see my slides?
Yeah, make it full screen.
Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
Yes.
Okay, so I will talk about creating international links from Japan to USA in 80s, namely connecting JUNet to CMU and CSNET. Before I talk about the CSNET development in Japan, Professor Aiso actually back in 70s, he visited the Professor Dave Farber's research lab in UC Irvine at that time. After he came back, he started the project focusing on the distributed computing. So I call this is a Farber Aiso link. We were at that time, Jun and I were student in Keio. Back in 1973, I was undergraduate student in Aiso lab working on distributed systems. This is a picture of Keio Oki complex system called the COCOS back in 1973. The 75, this is a picture of the final shape. Dave created DCS, distributed computing system, with a Lockheed SU system, which is a ring network. Professor Aiso wanted to create a single bus system, and the uniqueness was the heterogeneous mini computer systems. So it was very difficult to migrate one application to the other node because basic architecture is different, but we created interpretive language for that. And let me, maybe before I finish that, I will invite the Professor Aiso. Okay, then this is a picture of very old systems. This is a picture of my system back in 1980s. I was at the University of Waterloo working on my PhD degree. And during my study, I maintained the contact with Professor Jun Murai. This is a picture of Murai, Professor Murai, Jun Murai, and myself back in 80s. I think he has some workstation at the Tokyo Institute of Technology in Tokyo. And then I had also a bunch of machines in Waterloo and Carnegie Mellon. This is a picture of my office in Carnegie Mellon. So now, the main point of the session. Back in January 1985, Jun wanted to create an international link between JUNet, Japan Universities Network, or Japan Unix Network, to Carnegie Mellon, namely my office. So we set 1200 BPS Trailblazer modem with a telephone line. We connected two workstations, one in TI Tech and one was CMU in my office. Before 1985, actually, Jun created the first Japanese Unix-based network back in September 1984 with a 300 BPS modem. between Keio University and Tokyo Institute of Technology. And then October, he also connected the University of Tokyo to Keio and then TI Tech. Actually, one short comment is that the Professor Haruhisa Ishida, who was the boss of Jun at the U of Tokyo, he told Jun that at least 3 nodes are essential to be called a network. So JUNet started with 3 nodes. Back in 80s, there was a huge problem. The university couldn't create or set up a direct telephone line for, say, Unix machine. All the telephone calls are for human beings, and then it was very difficult to apply to set a direct telephone line for machines. And also another one is phone cost. It was very expensive to send anything between US and Japan. It's extremely expensive. The other aspect is the carrier regulation. We are not quite sure whether we were safe or not while we were expanding JUNet activities. And also, of course, at that time, Unix, UUCP, and BNews experts are limited. This is a picture of Usenet at that time, 1981. Also, back in 1984, we wrote short note to IPSJ. We means my elder brother and myself. Larry mentioned about interest from Japan to CSNET. My elder brother and myself sent a bunch of emails to Larry, wondering that what's happened to all the Japanese application to CSNET. So the answer was actually October 1985. This was very important date for Japan and Korea. I think back in October 85, Dave already mentioned that we had a symposium. It's called the Japan Unix User Association Symposium in Tokyo. And also there was a Pacific Computer Communication Symposium in Seoul. So these 2 conferences were very important because they brought the official CSNET software in a magnetic tape, one in Tokyo and then one in Korea. CSNET membership fee was a touchy issue as well. I think initial setup was the following: $30,000 for a company, $10,000 for a governmental organization, $5,000 for universities. I think it was a very good idea to set these fees so that the CSNET will be self-sustainable. At that time, we do not have a clear notion of national research and development network in Japan. So there were many applications to CSNET, including KDDI, namely KDD. Now it's called the KDDI. And then ICOT. ICOT was the 5th generation computer research and development center, and also NTT Research Lab. These are very much interested in setting up international link to CSNET. Until Japanese computer science research community decided that the U of Tokyo will be the official gateway, we didn't get any response from the CSNET CIC. Almost, I think it took 2.5 years or almost 3 years. Finally, this October 1985, this was the turning point that officially U of Tokyo, at that time, Jun Murai was working at the University of Tokyo under Professor Ishida, and then became the official gateway to the CSNET. Okay, this is a rare picture. I tried to dig out all the picture. Left-hand side is Jun, right-hand side myself in Seoul, attending the PCCS. This is the same time we had the Unix User Association Symposium. Mark Horton, Professor Larry Landweber, Dave Farber, Professor Nobuo Saito, and Dr. Koichi Kishida, and myself and Jun back in 85. After the symposium, actually, we wanted to create a book called Computer Network, edited by Professor Ishida, my elder brother, and myself, published by Kyoritsu Publishing Company. This book was the first computer network book in which all manuscripts were corrected by using JUNet, Usenet, and CSNET. That was mentioned by Professor Ishida. Okay, then this is a one picture back in maybe 2015, I think, in Keio, Dave, and then Jun and myself. Well, let me stop here and then pass to Professor Jun Murai. Jun, please. Oh, maybe
invite Aiso sensei.
Aiso sensei, sorry. Yeah, Aiso sensei.
Hi.
Well, thank you. Could you say hello to everyone?
Oh, yes, thank you very much for inviting me to this conference. And my name is Hideo Aiso. I used to be a researcher at Keio University, but now I changed myself to non-professional people. And anyway, thank you very much for inviting me to this international symposium. And just a moment. I'd like to say about the first meeting of meeting with Professor Farber. I'm not sure, but around 1985, I had a chance to see Professor David Farber at the University of California, Irvine. The objective of visiting Professor Farber was to study the most advanced computer network systems developed by himself. And he kindly explained everything about the characteristics of several new network systems. He made a great contribution to realize modern networks at the new campus of Keio University called SFC, Shonan Fujisawa Campus. As a result of his suggestions, we never used mainframes at all. And Keio University decided that each of computer users have to bring his or her own personal notebook computers. This idea means that Professor David Farber has rendered many services to cause of new education. We would like to express our deepest gratitude to Professor David Farber and his friends. We like to deeply appreciate gracious support by everybody here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Aiso. Then We will pass to Professor Jun Murai then.
Okay.
Jun, please.
All right. Thank you very much. How much time left, Chair?
Yeah, that's okay. 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we're running ahead of schedule anyway, so don't worry that much.
Okay, so probably I think very great introduction from Hide about the history things, and then also thank you very much for the the Larry and Dave for the kind of talking about the very important thing about the the starting up of the network, internet, CSNET, international link, and other things. So yeah, you people have a much better memory than me. So that's what I cannot follow anymore. But let me explain about the some of the background of the social background, I should say, about how the network started in Japan. The JUNet, Hide mentioned about JUNet is, I wear the JUNet shirt today. This is a JUNet. And it said that since 1984. Okay, this means a lot because I started connecting the universities in 84. That was illegal in Japan. And illegal because it was telephone company is government owned, and then all the devices, up to devices, that was ownership of a government. Therefore, the telephone itself, you cannot remove, and if you connect something else, that's illegal. So voice modem, audio modem is okay, but it's not very much appreciated because of the the different type of signals over the telephone system. So the entity, the privatization of the telephone company was on 85. So 84, I started a UUCP-based network in Japan. That was illegal. So I kind of put my students line up in front of the door and tell them that to watch, make sure that nobody is getting in, and because it was illegal. So, but we knew that it's going to be privatized in a year. Therefore, the connecting, removing the telephone device and then connecting the modem directly, and then they started the JUNet. And then it was like more than 100 universities before the privatization of the telephone company, all illegal. So I said that 84 because I want to tell all the younger researchers that you should be illegal. No, I didn't say that, but you should be you should be a challenger, and then so that's a kind of symbolic year, 84 was. And also I was before that started, I was very much a Unix person, and then working on an operating system distributed network type of things. So very much following the Hide's work, and then also working with the Mario Tokoro and then in Aiso lab. So I did this protocol stack software, which was not TCP/IP, by the way. So it was own design. And then Mario Tokoro was working on a kind of a special version of the Ethernet called Acknowledging the Ethernet at the Aiso lab. So we worked together. I did the software part, and then Mario Tokoro did the hardware part, and then the connecting other machines in a different department with the Digital Equipment Corporation machines. That was Keio S and TNet. So it's a very much local network rather than the long haul network, because that's an obvious reason that long haul, in order to get a long haul network, then you have to pay for the telephone company, which was owned by government, and then it was basically illegal. I mean, lease line was very expensive, and it was possible, but it's not the reach of our research budget. So starting from the local area networks and the researches, and then illegally interconnected in the 84, and then from 85, everything started. So that was the background, and therefore there was a talk about the Hide dead was like a 85, because before that it was almost impossible. So that's a background story, and. About the CSNET, and then as Hide introduced, that was all started in the range of 85. But as I said, that time we did have a UUCP-based network in the nationwide almost already. So by that time, and therefore the email exchange was the first attempt, and then over the X25, and then onto the exploring the TCP/IP in 85, 86 timeframe over the telephone line or the lease line, and then I started the wide project, which is a lease line based TCP/IP. So in 86, late 86, and then the budget wise, it was impossible that the government will fund the computer network that time. Therefore, I decided to collect all the money from the commercial companies. So the network was officially funding the X25 and the OSI-based network development for the government research entities. So I was like, the more to the private. And getting a private fund and asking 10 companies to divide the lease line for the Keio University, University of Tokyo, Tokyo Institute of Technology, and the other companies. So that was the start of a wide project. So a wide project successfully launching and still there over 30 years. And then so it was great that all of the money came from commercial companies, and we didn't touch government money at all. So that's a characteristic of us. But then well, I couldn't get the government funding because the government didn't understand the internet thing, and therefore it was very difficult time regarding the kind of the more toward the official thing and working on the computer network as an official thing. So I was asking Larry and Vint that well, it was so difficult to start up the computer network for the universities in Japan, and I believe many of other countries would be on the same situation. So because many governments didn't understand about the computer networks, the power of a research and educational network, right? Type of a thing, academic network. So I asked Ali and Vint and all those friends in the US that can you make up some kind of official organization about the computer network, so that our government didn't trust me, believe me, but if there is something happening in the US, then they can trust computer networks. So that was a requirement. And then I remember, I don't know if you remember Vint and Larry, but then one day in the 90s, and then when I met them, then they said, how about this one? And they showed the plan of the ISOC. So I was very happy, and then so excited, and then the Internet Society things officially launched as a legal entity, and then now we can trust the internet and the computer network, and they are convincing the broader people in Japan. I did this similar things with a National Science Foundation. I was working to connect the NSF and the Tokyo. Then there was a Steve Wolf who was in charge of that network project, and came to my place, and then I asked him that the Japanese people, Japanese academics, Japanese government people don't trust me because I'm too young, and then they don't understand computer network, and then if we connect the internet to US, they all think that it's illegal, or that it's a very big thing, so that the government has to take a lead. And then the Steve Wolf just disappeared for 5 minutes, and then he came to me with a sheet of signed paper, letterhead of a National Science Foundation. He signed by himself as a director of the network, and then it said, I'm pleased to connect officially the U.S. internet to Japanese internet, and that was in the frame, and it's on the museum now. So this is a beginning. So I always needed. I was too young, and then the network was not recognized. Therefore, it's always good that the outside community, especially U.S., had some kind of official symbolic activities about the network, and I use that, and then see this, and then so that's a way the background of the other connection and the other things. But that was a very interesting time before the government and the society and even academics didn't recognize the computer networks. So
Okay.
that's about me.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we move to Professor Chon. Oh, please take 10 minutes. Yeah.
Me and Okhwa together.
No, 10 minutes each. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I'll take a 10 minutes plus, and Okhwa told me she's going to take a 10 minutes minus. Okay, could you give me my first slide? Okay, since nobody from the Asia is going to make a presentation, I'm going to talk both Korea and Asia, and in the 1980s. And you can find the detail in our books. Could you give me next page? I'm going to talk two things: ecosystem. Second is a timeline. First of all, this internet ecosystem is very important. And the CSNET and the International Academic Network Shop, led by the Professor Landweber, Dave Farber, and others, NSF, that really helped. And I'm going to explain this one. Okay, the why internet ecosystem development in Asia was very important in the 1980s. Okay, in the USA and the UK, you had a 10 years ahead of us. You start developing a computer network in the 1970s. And we are in the 80s, sort of about 10 years behind of USA and the UK. So we sort of try to catch up. And fortunately, there's a CSNET and the Academic Network Shop give a very good vehicle to catch up. The first one in the ecosystem is a human network. We should know each other. within Korea, within Asia, and globally. And the CSNET, it just works so perfect. And the second is information sharing. Again, I don't know if Lola remember. She was working at the CSNET CIC, basically on the information dissemination. Those information that really helped. And also we also learned how to produce those documents to share the information. So that we really appreciate Lola and those NSF and the CSNET office. Then third is joint network development. Since in many leading countries in Asia, we are sort of in same phase. So rather than working alone and making a trial and error, sort of we work together collectively and also globally, make so much more sense. And so we did a lot of those collaboration. Then ultimately, we want to have a network into the ARPANET. And but ARPANET by regulation, it's not allowed to connect to the overseas networks. Then again, CSNET is so perfect. That's the way to connect to the ARPANET. Not just in terms of those email and the file transfer, also the human network and the information sharing. And eventually, of course, those whole thing came to the NSFNet development, which I'm going to comment later again. Could you move to the next slide? Okay, in the 1980s, what happened in Asia Pacific? First, Australia. Australian's computer science net. This is pretty much like a UUCP net or the mail network was developed and started service in 1980. And 1982 in Korea, we thought about several things. Then eventually we decided to select the TCP/IP. And we start developing a TCP/IP network and start operational in 1982, May. Then 1983, actually, CSNET started in Asia. If you count the Israel is a part of Asia. Otherwise, in 1984, we made an agreement, Japan and Korea, Australia and New Zealand. And then as Dave Farber told us, start operational service in 1985. Then in 1984, we had an AsiaNet. It's sort of part of those ecosystem in Asia, using a UUCP-net and a Usenet, like Australia, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, and Hong Kong. Those are leading countries in Asia joined this AsiaNet. Then 1985, we start participation of International Academic Network Shop, chaired by the Peter Kirstein and Larry Landweber annual. And it really helped to develop the human network, not just with USA, also the Europe, because most of those International Academic Network Shop was held in Europe. Then the same year, we had a Pacific Computer Communication Symposium, PCCS. Again, this is sort of part of ecosystem development. First of all, in order to develop a human network, I sort of figured out, rather than sending the several hundred Korean to the overseas, invite several hundred people to the Korea, and so the many Korean can meet them. Also, all those Asian people come to Seoul, so they can meet the Asian and European and North American. And it was very successful in many ways. Then I get into the preparation of internet. 1986, we started CCTLD allocation. Like we had a .kr for the Korea and a .jp for Japan. Then 1986, we formed the first Asian group. We call the IANW Asia, International Academic Network Shop Asia. We held this meeting during the academic network shop. The reason was that it's not easy to travel within Asia and expensive. So that we decided to, it's kind of funny, we decided to meet in Europe during the academic network shop in about a couple hours in one evening. And it was good. That's the way we started meeting among the Asian. Then Korea, we had a joint workshop on computer communication. This is sort of a successor to the PCCS, and which still being held annually, called the ICOIN. Then in 1988, Japan formally kicked off the WIDE project. Then 1989 is a big thing. And NSF decided to offer communication intercontinentally, not just for the Asia, Europe, and Russia, and Latin America later. And this one we call the PACOM. Many countries, including Korea and Japan, connect to the Hawaii, then to the NSF-NET. And Australia, New Zealand connect to the California, then to the NSF-NET. So with this project and the NSF-NET, effectively CSNET, this one take over the CSNET, and as well as the ARPANET. That's what happened in 1989 from the Asian perspective. Cherry, can you move to the next one? So I should say thank you, CSNET, and Academic Network Shop, Larry, Dave Farber, Lola, and Adrian, many people. I guess I realized I never said thank you to the Larry for last 35 years, and this may be a good time. Never be too late to say thank you, I guess. Thank you. Can you move to the next? Okay, bibliography. If you want to know more, go to the Asia Internet History with the address of internethistory.asia. Volume 1 described in the 1980s. Volume 2 described in the 1990s. If you want to get a hard copy, you can get from the Google Books or the Amazon, or you can get download from the this website. And if you want to know the Korea Internet History, go to the internethistory.korea website. And overall on the internet, I recommend the Internet Society's article, Brief History of Internet, written by the Liner and many colleagues. And then I checked the website, History of WIDE project for 10 years. You can find it in 1999 Internet magazine. Oh, I found this one in a website by Googling. Okay, I guess I spent 10 minutes or more. And Okhwa, would you like to talk on educational application?
Sure. Most of you who are here are developers of network. My point of view is the users. I will talk about the perspective from users of network in education. So very different perspective, and I will share my slides. I work at Chungbuk National University, one of the major national university in Korea, and one of the first university where the computer education department was held. Now, the birth of educational network use in 80s in Korea and in Asian countries, virtually not so much going on. This is a transition time from the use of mainframe to PC. Actually, the use of computers for education was not popular, and particularly network, almost none. So during this time in 80s, we beginning to realize the potential power of using PC for educational use and network for educational use. So this is a time to see that the coexistence of mainframe use and PC use. And in 90s, you will see we saw the emerging power of using PCs and networks for education. So this is the very first courseware in Korea to show the educational use of computers. And this is a Plato system, so it's a mainframe. And this Plato system gave me a job after I done my PhD at University of Wisconsin. So thanks to Plato, I used Plato at University of Wisconsin, and that experience gave me a job for creating an educational use. Now these are the screens of Plato courseware for educational use. So since it's a mainframe, the network were available, but very expensive. This very first courseware using Plato were supported by the Ministry of Science and Technology. And this gave us the opening up the opportunity to open up our perspectives of using computers in education. So the prime computer was installed in Korea for the population census, but the government did not use the full power of prime computer, and they were afraid of getting the critique not to use the computer power fully, spending that much money. So they asked me to develop a courseware for the use of K-12 education. So mathematics and science were the topics for courseware using Plato during this time. So that was the very first use of education in Korea in 80s. And that was the time to see the emerging of PC. So small scale trials happened here and there, and I can recall only a few of them, like during the late 80s and 90s, small-scale trials between the university-affiliated schools in Australia, Japan, China, Korea happened. And in Australia, important institute called Asia Education Foundation at University of Melbourne were founded in 1994, and they launched a project called the Bridge from between Korea and Australia from 1996. And in that project, in that Bridge project, the Australian schools and Korean schools were connected through a very slow network, but it was thrilling to see the people from other side of the world. And in late 1990s, Lego robot Mindstorm were introduced. This is a robot. Students can do the robot control in distance. So my university, Chungbuk National University, and the Lego Technical Support Group in Switzerland tried this program, and this program was introduced in the classroom so that the students were thrilled to see that they can move this robot by using the program in Korean side. So the impact in 90s for the use of internet were great. Government and people saw the potential power of using this internet in education, and universities already noticed and practiced the use of internet through the various sources. But what I would like to focus and mention here is that support from the government for the use of internet and computer use for K-12 levels. The master plan for the use of internet and computer was developed in 1995 by the Ministry of Education. It's a 5-year plan, and that master plan is updated every 5 years. And in that master plan, the use of network for education was included. And in order to practice this master plan, the new institute was established, because the computer education became the compulsory subject at primary and secondary education from this time, from 1998. And in 1999, new institute called CARIS, Korea Educational Resources and Information System, was founded, and they supported the use of ICT in education for K-12 levels and universities through many policies.